Now, the global markets have understandably been focusing on these U.S. China trade talks lately, but there are other geopolitical hotspots that could have a big financial impact as well. We're talking about issues involving North Korea, Iran, Venezuela. Joining us right now to talk about that, Chris Konstantinos is Chief Investment Strategist with Riverfront Investment Group. Chris, good to see you again. Welcome back.
Likewise, thank you.
And just today, Secretary of State Mike Pompeo was talking about Iran and the threats that have been coming out of that country. Are you as concerned about some of those potential hotspots, or are we just talking about some saber rattling right now?
Well, look, from a humanitarian perspective, obviously places like Iran and Venezuela, these are tremendously terrible humanitarian crises. However, from the global market perspective, from the perspective of all of us trying to figure out what's going to happen to stock markets in the future, really the only way these countries matter is through a transmission mechanism in the price of oil. And the issue for these countries is that, or any OPEC country actually, is that OPEC's ability to drive pricing and drive supply and demand is diminished in recent years because of Western technology gains. So I view places like Venezuela and Iran as being increasingly irrelevant to stock markets going forward. And generally speaking, stock markets tend to look through these types of geopolitical affairs, except in the very, very near-term impact on a valuation multiple.
But what about North Korea? News that they have fired short-range missiles, and this evening say that they intend to continue to do that. Certainly, that could have, I mean, China's going to have a reaction to that. The U.S. has already made some statements on it. Does that threaten to derail these talks, the trade talks at this point, or no?
That's a really interesting question. I believe that neither China nor the U.S. want any more complexity in these talks than what already exists. And the advent of North Korea acting up again, I think, is an unwanted complexity for both sides. I think if you take a step back, this is very much in keeping with North Korean behavior. Yes, we haven't had a missile launch in about 500 days, but this is pretty much straight out of the North Korean playbook. It, to me, looks like North Korean saber rattling. They're probably a little bit upset that the talks in Hanoi a few months back didn't really yield any results, and that the U.S. administration walked away. So this is just, I think, them saying, hey, remember us, we're still out there. Yeah. But I'd like to think that the U.S. and China are focused on the trade deal right now, because I think that's of utmost importance to both countries' economies.
And we will see what happens tonight and over the weekend. Chris Konstantinos with Riverfront Investment Group. Again, thanks for joining us tonight.